Now we just have to do one more into the Facebook group. There we go. Hello and welcome to day 4 of the Design Pattern Create Summit. I am super excited to have these speakers with us today, and I'm super excited for you guys to hear from them and talk with them a little bit. If you are joining us, please let us know where you're joining from, or if you're joining from the replay, make sure to let us know you're watching the replay. We are watching the comments to see if you have questions. We're going to come back and answer them as well. So I'm going to have everybody just kind of introduce themselves a little bit so you can hear a little bit about who they are and what they do so that you can see who we're talking to tonight. Sheredith, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, right. I'm Sheredith Hardy, and I own projectorsewing.com, where I help everybody transfer their paper pattern skills to the digital world and using a projector for cutting out their sewing patterns. And I'm very happy to be here today.
Awesome. And Sally, you want to go next?
Sure. My name is Sally Seligman. I have tutorials on sewing and pattern making fitting called Sew with Sally on YouTube. And I am a professional dressmaker and I love sharing my skills. So I'm happy to be here and see what questions we can answer for people, etc. Thank you, Christina. I really love being here.
Awesome. Yeah, of course. I'm excited to have you all. And Lisa.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Hawks. I am the owner and designer behind Pink Hollybush Patterns, line of patterns for children, most of which contain an option for smocking, and most of which are for knits.
Yes,
so I'm being here as well.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you all join us. I want to just start by opening up. Do you guys have any questions for each other while we're waiting for some people to log on and find us?
No, I would love to hear how you all got into what you're doing. So that would just, I would love to hear that from each other.
Well, I come from a long line of people that just sewed. I grew up in Texas and everyone sewed. So a child didn't think they couldn't sew. You know, if a child sees people walk, they know to get up and walk. It was the same thing with sewing. We just sewed. So that's how I got into it, really.
Sheredith?
Yeah. I've been sewing on and off it since I was little and a little kid. I got back into it later after I was married and had a little bit of free time and did that. And it wasn't until about 2020 that I started hearing about projector sewing specifically in there. You know, at that time I was printing all my patterns. So I did a lot of PDF patterns, printed those off, taped them together, you know, that whole 9 yards. And I was looking for a way to kind of get to the fun part faster. Which is the sewing part, right? And cutting out your fabric. So that's when I kind of heard about sewing with projectors and using projectors for sewing. It was kind of new then. And I bought my first projector and it was kind of the rest is history from there because I was so excited about it, you know, and there wasn't a lot of resources yet about it. There was the One Central Facebook group, which is really great on there. And I said, you know what, we've got to get a website out here. We've got to get more resources that are dedicated to using a projector for sewing so more people can hear about it and see how easy it can be and a good time saver, really, in the sewing process. So that's kind of a little bit of how I got started.
Fascinating. You're the first. I never knew about it till I saw your presentation. Never heard of it.
Yeah, it's relatively new. And so a lot of people are still learning about it. But, you know, I don't think it's going away anytime soon. I think it's going to continue to grow as people see it. And you really can skip that printing and taping part of PDF patterns and just go straight to cutting out your pattern on the fabric. So
wonderful idea.
That's great. Christine, how about you?
So I started sewing back in high school because I wanted to make my prom dress, and I wasn't willing to just stick with one pattern. So the person that was helping me make my prom dress we combined 3 different patterns into one, so I could actually have my dream dress. And that's kind of the downhill, the snowball that started going downhill from there, is the pattern hacking. I know Sheredith loves the sewing. I love the pattern making. I'll just sit and make patterns all day. So I'm on the opposite side. So we'd be great partners. It's like, oh, I'll build all the patterns and you can build all the.
Yeah, well, I'm getting a lot more into that now. Now that it's I feel like it's so easy to do pattern hacking now when I'm doing like digital patterns now. And I'm like, oh, take a little bit of this, a little bit of this. I'm going to adjust this neckline just a little bit. It's so easy now that I'm doing it a ton more now.
Yeah, and you don't, like, the storage space is so minute on your hard drive, and it's like you can just have, 20 different renditions of the exact same outfit that just have minor tweaks between each one of them. Yeah,
right. And you could save them all.
Yes, I 10 out of 10 recommend. So that's how I really got into it. And I actually went and got a master's in costume technology. So that's how I really started learning the digital aspect of pattern drafting, was when I was in grad school. And when I left, I said, I can't leave this behind. I have to figure out how I can continue digital pattern drafting outside of school. So that's what got me into the Adobe and now into Clo 3D. And I haven't looked back, and I don't want to.
That's fabulous. I absolutely loved your wedding dress with the lights on it.
Yes.
So fun. It was fun.
I particularly love that. It was the first time a wedding venue asked for power at the sweetheart table so that they could recharge the bride's dress during dinner. Probably not the last, because it's, technology is becoming more and more thing, and it's becoming smaller and smaller and smaller, which is really a really cool thing. Just even within the past 5 years, this dress behind me actually lights up. She doesn't have batteries in her right now. I need to actually put batteries in her because everybody asks, and I'm like, she just doesn't light up right now. But it's getting smaller and smaller, and I would make her completely differently now with smaller components. So but Lisa, do you want to also say how you kind of got into it?
Sure. My daughter, I got into, same as you all, I was sewing kind of my entire life. And then with the smocking, I just happened to find a book in the library when my daughter was 2 on smocking, and I made the cover dress, and just it snowballed from there. So
it's just beautiful work.
Thank you. It's a lot of fun.
It takes time though too. I wish I had more time to do smocking, and maybe like if I got into it, I might be faster, but
you would be just like sewing, right? It like there was that I remember where it took forever to finish a garment, but then you kind of get over that hump of that learning curve, and all of the afternoons, here it is, it's done, let's wear it, so
yeah, that one's more of a very process art. You really enjoy the process of it and going through that and finally seeing that completed piece.
Yeah. Do any of you knit?
I do.
No.
Do you knit?
I crochet.
Oh, do you crochet?
Yeah,
Ooh,
I crochet the little argamanugis or whatever they're called. When my husband, so this is gonna be totally off topic, but when my husband and we were long distance for 3.5 years before we got married. So what I did once when I went on a vacation without him is I actually crocheted, thank you, back end. I actually crocheted mini versions of my husband and I so that we could have each other on our adventures when we didn't actually have each other on our adventures. So we had pictures of these little guys separate from each other that we would just text back and forth. And
so sweet.
Yeah. So
fun.
That's off topic, but I love making those little creatures and the little.
Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah, our entire wedding party got their own version, so everybody had their own little mini me if they were in our wedding party. So
incredible! That's so special.
But But yeah, so I know a lot of people have been kind of asking about the Ditto, Sheredith. Have you had a chance to try out the Ditto or anything?
Yeah, actually, since, one of my main things is to review projectors that are used for sewing, and Ditto is the first commercialized version of a sewing projector. I would really refer people to my YouTube channel. I have a full review of it. I go through each step of using it, and I talk pros and cons. Personally, I don't use my Ditto. I prefer a do-it-yourself setup. And the video kind of explains why I prefer that. And that's not to say that the Ditto isn't for you or for somebody. There are people that absolutely love their Ditto. And it's come down a lot in price, which I think it's more attainable for a lot more people. It's still more expensive than a do-it-yourself sewing projector setup of the same projector quality. So I really encourage them to go watch that review video. It's on my projector sewing channel and decide for yourself. I'm not going to tell them if it's right for them or not. For me, it wasn't right for me personally, but go see the pros and cons and see what you like about it and what you don't like, because yeah, there are some people that absolutely love it. So
Because you still can't put your own patterns on it, right?
So they do have a feature where you can upload your own PDF patterns. It's very limited. It doesn't, you can't turn layers on and off. So you have to do a few prep work to, in programs to select just the size you need if you don't want all the other lines on there. And so it's a little bit limited. You do have to have a subscription to be able to use your own patterns to do that upload. So they have to keep that in mind as well on that.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely have to find that because I've had a lot of people asking and I'm always like, go check out Sheredith. She knows everything.
Yeah. Like I said, yeah, I do have a full review on that. And it just depends what you really like about it. The big thing about the Ditto is that it has those customized patterns that are made to your size. But that I see as a really, that's a feature of a sewing pattern company. That's not a feature of the projector. The projector is not going to size those patterns for you. If you like the Ditto patterns, then buy a Ditto pattern and use it on your own projector. Or there are several companies now that are actually coming out with your made to your measurement patterns. My favorite one so far has been Apostrophe Patterns. I just love how versatile they are. They have kind of looks like a small catalog, but I chose their jogger patterns and I made woven pants that are relaxed fitting out of linen, and they were the perfect beach pants, even though it was a jogger pattern, So it might take a little creativity, a little understanding of how patterns might work, but there are a lot of companies out there offering custom made to your measurement patterns, and it's continuing to grow. So if that's a feature that you really like about the Ditto, just know there are options of pattern companies out there. And I actually do have an article I think it's linked in my Ditto review video as well, about a few companies that do offer made to measure patterns as well.
Awesome.
Know about. Thank you.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that as well. I'm not sure I hadn't heard that I knew that was becoming a thing, but I didn't realize it was for sewing patterns. I'd heard more of it for actual clothing. Like there's lots of brands out there that have, hey, you want this clothing, you can get it in these sizes, or you can get it in your size.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and that stems from because the technology is there that they have written computer programs that can draft basically these patterns to your sizes. And then the the clothing companies can sew them up and things like that.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I don't think it will replace pattern makers.
Not fully.
Not fully.
Because, I mean, but it's also an aid. Like it's one of those things that if you totally go against all technology advances, you'll get left behind. Whereas if you lean into technology advances, it won't ever fully replace you because you still have to do the analytical thinking,
Right.
Even
and
with AI,
like I said, yeah, with the custom patterns, yeah, I know about all these custom patterns, but do I still buy other patterns or hack my own patterns? Absolutely, all the time.
Oh, sure.
yeah, sometimes it's not the style that you want, or you don't want to spend the time drafting something yourself when there's already a pattern there and it's only, $15 or less. It's worth my time
Totally
to
understand
buy the
that.
pattern,
I realize that I teach both pattern making and sewing, but I realize a lot of people are not going to want to learn pattern making because it takes a lot of time.
It does.
So these companies are
Yes.
great, but there are people that, like Christina and myself, we enjoy the process of actually making the patterns. It's
Right.
so, I thought I would hate it when I learned it, but I felt like I had to learn it to help my clients, my dressmaking clients, because I
Mhm.
couldn't find patterns that of the styles they wanted. And pattern making is fun. It's hard to say if I like one or the other more, right, Christina?
Oh, I know I like pattern making more.
I like both
But
of them.
Then there's also the whole aspect of just how you want it to fit. And that's a whole nother piece of it, right? Because you
Right.
can look at that pattern on the model and think that's great, and yes, I can get it custom made to me, but then I'm very different from that model. And am I going to like how it's going to fit, or do I need to tweak it, to get a fit that's going to be, but what am I trying to say? Yes, if they have my measurements, they can make it fit to that. But do I like the ease? Do I like the way it's going to fall on my body, all of that? Or do I want to start playing with that? So that's a whole nother, I know when I'm sewing for myself that I'm always trying to figure out.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm only 5 foot tall, so I look at these models and I think they look fabulous, and I would look like I was a little kid playing dress up. So and it's true. So I understand, your proportions, your body. No two people can necessarily wear the same thing, but it's fun.
yeah, for sure. I the reason why I like
It's fun.
pattern making a little bit more, especially digital, is the edit undo button is so much faster than a seam ripper.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have to tell you, the past 3 years, I've been able to fall back in love with sewing. When I was sewing for other people full time, I didn't want to become a dressmaker, but it made sense to do it because I knew how to do it. But I knew if I became a dressmaker, it would not be my fun hobby anymore, which it wasn't. But now that I'm teaching online and not sewing for other people as much, now I can take the time to really enjoy the process of sewing again. And it's much more enjoyable. So I completely agree with you, Christina. It can be nerve-wracking to have to take things apart constantly. I remember one time making a woolen suit for someone, and I don't know how I did it, but I put the sleeves in the wrong armholes. And when I sew something, I sew it extremely well, so it's hard to take it apart. And I took it apart and I did it again. It was just one of those days. I set them in wrong twice. So I just said, okay, let's stop for the day, go eat dinner, go to bed. Tomorrow's another day. But it's very, very time consuming. The smocking is time consuming. It's all time consuming. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. My favorite sleeve story.
It is, but yeah.
It just reminded me. I was working with a student once, walking her through building it was a theater garment. And I was like, okay, you're going to set in the sleeves. And I kind of showed her how to pin the first one and put it in, and it looked great. And she went and did the second one, but she sewed the second one upside down. So the person, it was like raising your hand and you're like, this is really well sewn,
but it's wrong. And if you have notches, that's what gets me. I'm real specific about notches. So how do you do it wrong when you've got all the markers? But we have those days.
Yeah,
it's a great story.
But yeah, it's sleeves are always fun. I love sleeves. But
I'd like to ask you, your degrees in costume technology. Why does it say technology? What does that mean?
So I went in and I got a master's in pattern making, draping, and all that stuff. So I took one class on costume design, but I went to a program that was very specific so that I could become a better pattern maker. I could become a better communicator with designers and everything to actually create those type of things. So it's technology because I'm doing all the back end stuff for like the pattern making and the draping and that stuff.
Awesome.
Managing a shop in a way, even instead of the designing, working with a director. And it's one of those jobs that most people don't realize exists.
Mhm.
And there's probably only about 10 different programs in the country that are very specifically costume technology. A lot of them are costume design and technology. So when I was looking for the program, I was looking at programs that were only the costume technology because I knew for a fact I did not want to design. Like,
I don't like designing either. I do it for my client, but I really prefer the technology or the technical aspects of everything, just figuring out how to put it together and that. I
yeah.
agree with you.
Do you have any crazy stories for
See, now I'm
Smocking,
all
Lisa?
about the design. Oh, gosh. I'll keep thinking about it while we're talking and see if there's if I have any, but off the top of my head, no, I don't think I do.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It's one of those that I feel like everybody has some crazy sewing story that when you sometimes get asked about it, it's like, oh, of course I do, but it's like I can't. Putting all the pressure on you. What about you, Sheredith? Do you have a funny mess up story?
I mean, I'm trying to think of like if I have any specific moment. I mean, just like the silly stuff like the sleeves, or one time I sewed a waistband inside out. So like the seams are showing on the outside. I'm like, it's a new style feature. We're leaving
There
it.
is.
I'm like, it's for my toddler. It doesn't matter. We're going with it. I'm like, it was late at night. I'm like, I'm done.
I just altered
Yeah.
a blouse for a client. It was I believe it was an Armani. It was an extremely beautiful
Oh,
blouse. And it came up, the collar came up, and the way they seamed it, all the seams were on the outside with bias binding. It was
Oh, wow.
exquisite to see it. And it was so against what we normally see. It was beautiful. So you make that a trend. I'm
Go ahead,
sorry?
Sheredith.
I was just going, it's okay to break the rules. It's style, right? You
Absolutely.
break the rules. You never know what you're gonna get.
Absolutely.
Was the bias binding like three-dimensional, like it was sandwiched, or was it like top stitched down, kind of like a French seam?
Like a French seam. Yeah. So
Okay.
the seams themselves were just about 1/8 of an inch, and they were serged with the finest thread. This was the most beautiful blouse. I may have even taken a picture. I'll look as we talk. And then it was so interesting because the way the collar came up, they had like a raglan sleeve. So they had the raglan sleeve come up here, and then the whole back. Let's see. I think the back was all one piece. If I had pictures, it wouldn't show up on the camera right now. It would be hard to show you. It was just so ingeniously designed. So I took a lot of pictures. I think I might actually, this client of mine has so many beautiful clothes. I'm thinking that I might actually do a little series where I show unusual things like this because it gives people ideas. But they just did the seams on the outside, all the way down the blouse, and then this like 1/4 inch bias binding. It was perfectly sewn. It was not easy for me to alter it and sew it so it would look like it had never been touched. It looked pretty good when I got done, but it was just beautifully precision sewing. I'm sure they have machines that are set up to set that binding perfectly. It was fun. Any more stories?
Oh,
I do have one. It's kind of a smocking one. Didn't have problems with the actual smocking, but I was trying to finish the Easter dresses. And my 3-year-old son we're down to the wire trying to finish them. they have to be done for the next morning. And my 3-year-old son decided that night to flush his Buzz Lightyear toothpaste down the one toilet that we have in the house at that time. So my husband's like, okay, you have to stop and you have to come help me take the toilet apart.
That's so cute. That is
So we did. The dresses got done at 3 a.m. with stitch witchery, ironed on hems, but my girls had their dresses, so.
It's so precious. What a story. So I have this. I'm going to show you. I think I can do that. In a second. Here we go. And here. Okay. Okay. That's it. Okay. I'm going to show you the neckline. I think this is done. I can. Darn it. Sorry. This is the front neckline.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Yeah.
It is gorgeous.
So instead of having a seam here at the neck, she ran, or whoever designed this, ran it. This is the sleeve, the raglan sleeve in the front. The collar has a seam around the back from that seam right here is right about here. So the rest of the seam is like a turtleneck or a stand-up neck. And then the seam comes down here and goes down to shape the body. It's just beautiful. And you can see the binding.
Yeah. It
What
almost
was
looks
it
like
made out
piping.
of? Yeah. What was it made out of, the fabric?
Silk. It's a silk.
Of course.
It's like a maybe a 3-ply. It's almost like a charmeuse, but it's very shiny. It's almost like a 3 or 4-ply silk. I don't know this silk. I haven't seen it before, but it's pretty heavy. It's just gorgeous, and it's kind of a silver color. And you can see, I didn't take very good pictures. It goes around the sleeve and down the side. So it came here and then down like this area on the side of the bust. And I had to take all that off to shape the waist for her. It was just gorgeous. It's just so interesting what people come up with.
Yeah. Everybody has their own designs in their heads that, like, even if it's based off of something else, like they want to put their own twist on it, and and you want your own flair, your own, I don't know, style.
How about signature?
Great word.
That is great. Signature
Yeah.
style.
Yeah. I'd go really well with Sally too. Sally teaching your signature style.
Oh, that's sweet of you. Thank you. I don't think in that way. So thank you. That was helpful.
Yeah. You gotta go for those alliterations to try to find your I don't know. Try a few different things always.
Groove. You find your groove, right?
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, do you ever do kind of more into the accessories as well, or do you mostly stay on clothing?
Are you asking me or the other?
Yeah.
I have done mostly clothing up until this point, although yeah, I think because I've been focusing on the knits, but the accessories would be fun, and we might go more that way because so many people that do enjoy doing it then struggle with the child outgrows it, or they don't have somebody else and they still want to be able to do it, and they're like, okay, well, who do I do it now for? What do I do it? And so yeah, that's it has been done on quilts some, but then that can be where you're just doing the block, but because of the texture, then that can be, you want to do it more for a quilt that's going to be hanging rather than a quilt that you're gonna really use and you're gonna be sitting on or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never thought to do it for a quilt. But yeah, that would make sense. That would kind of have to be more of the hanging than
Yeah.
because of all that.
But
Yeah.
I have seen, it's been done on purses, back in the 60s and 70s, pillows. But again, more of a decorative pillow.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I didn't know if you'd ever tried to do like a fun little bracelet or on like a purse or something, because I could see it transferring onto that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it does. When I do a lot of ornaments, people do the ornaments all the time. That's
Oh,
a very
Christmas
popular.
ornament? Christmas
Hold-
ornaments?
Yes, hold on.
Oh, goody. Such
It's
a pretty.
always fun when you can get the show and tells out.
Mhm. Sure. Well, I have a dress here that's from 1945. It's a wedding gown. I could get it out and show you. I didn't make it. Of course, I'm not quite that old.
Okay,
Oh,
so we have
wonderful.
you do them around, you put it in around styrofoam balls.
That is just
It's a little
gorgeous.
Christmas tree. So, yeah, that's what people.
Gorgeous.
I like
Just
those. Those are fun.
beautiful.
Okay, I'll hold them up. So, yeah, with my Learn to Smock course, this is what you do because it lets you try the smocking without really having to do sewing. Because that is also one of the challenges to get people interested in the smocking is you've got you've got to be good at sewing and you've got to be good at smocking and put the two together. So this lets you just focus on trying the smocking and then you can work your way into the sewing if you want to.
Wonderful idea. They're just beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, those are really cool. I might have to make one of those.
Mhm.
Or try one of those out
See?
for Christmas.
I
That
told you
sounds like
we'd
a
get
lot
you
of fun.
hooked.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. Do you guys have any other questions? I have one then for all of you. Do you guys have a question that your clients always ask you that you want to share what the question is and then what your answer to that question is?
Can't imagine what that would be.
That's a tricky one.
I don't know, Sally, you might get the question of what is a sloper? I get that one a lot.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I've
How do you
made
define a
how many
sloper?
tutorials now trying to explain it. Yeah, I hope, between all of us sewers who use slopers, eventually people will really understand. I didn't know what it was, of course, till I started teaching or started learning pattern making. And yeah, that's probably it. But my clients don't ask me. The students do. Do you know what I
Sure.
mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
my clients, they have no idea.
How would you define a sloper then? Can I put you on spot?
Me?
Yeah.
Sure. What I say is it's a template that we use in pattern making. And it's almost like a second skin of your body with enough room to breathe. And I show them. Here's a half scale sloper. And I say it has absolutely no seam allowance. It's half of the front. A torso sloper goes from the shoulder. I make them either to the fullest part of the hip, or some people have thighs that are wider than their hips. So I have them do that. I have them go to the widest part because this is for coats and such. And it has darts so that when it's cut in fabric, when seam allowance is added, then it's a pattern. When it's cut and sewn in muslin, then it's called a fitting shell or a toile. And the darts are there so that when you sew them, it fits your body. And it's a long explanation, but hopefully they get it by the end of that explanation.
Yeah,
Yep.
Sally, I love that. I've been working on getting my slopers for my body. That's been my goal this year is to get them perfected. I've got my torso sloper and my bodice sloper and a skirt sloper. So I'm working on pants next.
Oh, wonderful.
And I really like to use them with the projector because now I overlay my pattern onto my sloper just to see how it might fit my body before going through everything and seeing what adjustments I want to make.
That's exactly what I'm starting to teach. I just did a dress and I got a pattern from the 1940s, which was so much fun. And it turned out to be simple because it was just a bodice, a fitted bodice. I had a shawl collar, a fitted bodice, and long sleeves. So all I had to do is take my short bodice sloper and put it on top and trace it, and then redraft the collar and the back of my sloper and just my sleeve sloper. It was almost too simple, but what you're doing is so helpful to people, teaching them this, because then they can go on and buy patterns and adjust them to themselves.
Yeah.
Christina,
I
what
need your classes.
sorry?
I said, I think I need your classes because I am trying to manage pants and I have not successfully made myself pants that fit.
I
I've not
haven't gone into pants yet. I intend to, and I've been thinking of how to teach people to get a sloper without all the measurements that you can often do that in the books, like the Armstrong book. And I've done it, but it's for a lay person who's never done pattern making. Looking at all those measurements and getting all those angles right is very intimidating. So I don't want to go that route, but I think I've come up with a way. Now there's a woman online on YouTube called J Stern Designs, and she's brilliant with pants. So
Okay.
really
I'll check her out.
J Stern Designed. She pretty much, I think she specializes in pants.
Okay. I
She's
will
really
go check it out because I have not been successful with pants and I'm bound and determined that gotta manage.
Lisa, that's not giving me hope. I'm just starting in on the pants.
Pants, I think pants are hard.
But you said you made ones from your joggers and they fit.
Yeah.
So-
That was from the pattern company that you just put the measurements in, and it was an elastic waist. So, but I got the crotch curve just right, and it hangs perfectly.
Hey,
Do you have side seams or no side seams?
Yes, side seams.
See, that's, to me, I found when I do the measurements, often the side seam is not in the right place, or it doesn't hang perpendicular from the floor. So if you got a good pattern, you're in luck. And
I've got a good start.
I'm sorry?
I've definitely got a good start on that.
And what was the name of the company?
I use apostrophe patterns is the one I used. Apostrophe, like apostrophe.
Apostrophe. Thank you. Apostrophe patterns. I'm going to write that down. Apostrophe patterns. Great. I'm going to check them out.
Yeah, and they let you choose the stretch of your fabric. So whether it was woven or how much stretch you have, and it will change and adjust the pattern too. And if the crotch isn't right, you can go in there and there's a way to do just minor adjustments to it and to fix it and tweak it a little bit. So I've tweaked it a few times to get it even fitting better. And
oh, thank you. Apostrophe.
Did either of you come up with a question that you're? Oh.
Yeah. What do you tell people slopers are?
I go for it is a sheath fitting. It's a sheath fitting garment, the close to your body with as few design lines as possible. That's your exact measurements that you can then use as a base to create whatever you want through flat patterning.
Good. Did you ever hear of Sylvia Rosen? She wrote she did a package where you could fit things. She also wrote a textbook. That's what it was. It was a textbook for
I feel like I know the name, but I can't.
Parsons and FIT used her textbooks for a while. I thought you might because you've been in that business for a while, but yeah, I was able to. She taught at Drexel where I taught. And so when they hired me to teach pattern making, I would go in the morning and sit in on her class and take, many notes so that the next class I could follow the syllabus and teach the way they wanted things to be taught. But anyway, it was really fun to work with her. She'd been in industry for a long time. I think she is no longer in the world, but she was a good pattern maker.
so the question that I get asked a lot is whether or not you can use because smocking's done on pre-pleated fabric, they want to know, can they use the sewing machine to gather and pleat the fabric. And I'm like, no, unfortunately, you cannot. It would be nice if we could, but no, there's something called a pleater that does that. But and the reason you can't is in order to have all those pleats, you know, exactly parallel, the needles need to enter and exit at the exact same spot all the way down. And so the pleater does that for you. The sewing machine will not do that for you. So
That's
you either have to have a
fascinating.
pleater or you have to do it by hand. Well, and that's another kind of barrier to entry, you know, because you pleaters can be fairly expensive. So you don't want to buy one if, you know, if you're only going to do it once. So it can be a problem.
When I started dressmaking, there were 2 companies in Philadelphia that you could take your fabric to. If it was a wide skirt, I would sew the side seam and hem it, and they would pleat it. It would come out. They
Oh,
would
okay.
take clean paper, run it through a machine, and of course it had to dry. And then I would pick it up and it'd be in a bundle, and I could put a waistband on it and have a pleated skirt. I think
So they're doing it with like steam and heat.
Mhm.
Okay.
And I'm sure your pleating is very, very different, but it was nice. I don't see that offered. It might be in New York. And they do cover buttons. They did all kinds of cover buttons. I could even get the kind of buttons with the fabric on the back side as well. Beautiful buttons. And covered belts, covered buckles. They're all gone.
Oh.
Sadly.
Yeah.
What about you, Sheredith?
See, the question I get asked a lot. I mean, a big one is can you do pattern alterations when you're sewing with a projector? I mean, that's a big one. And I would say yes. It's just a different way of thinking about things, right? But honestly, yes, you can, because otherwise this many people wouldn't be into using it if we couldn't adjust to our bodies, because everybody's different and doesn't fit one single mold. So that's a big one that gets asked, is about the pattern alterations. And then the next one is, well, which projector should I get?
Yep.
You know,
We did get a question on Facebook. It says, how do I incorporate smocking into my garment design?
Oh, okay. Adult, I guess they would be asking probably. So English smocking is 3 to 1. So 3 inches of fabric get pulled up to 1 inch. So you typically would have to widen a pattern unless you can find one that is you know, made to smock on an adult garment. On my YouTube channel, I have several videos. Right now, with the shearing being popular, any place that a commercial pattern has shearing, that's a good place to adapt. You usually have to add width, but because it won't be enough. But that if where the shearing is, that's where you can put the smocking. So it lets you visualize it, is maybe the best way. But I do have a couple different patterns on my videos on my YouTube channel that talk about the shearing and smocking. And then also I have one that's got 3 or 4 different commercial patterns that would be good for that you could adapt for smocking. So that would be a great place to go and look for it.
Awesome. And have you ever like smocked something like a piece of fabric first and then cut out the actual pattern so you didn't have to do the calculations?
Yep, you can do that. They're also on the YouTube channel. There's a video that is very typical for a little girl's dress. You will see that where they're smocking from the shoulders down to like here, okay? And what you do in that case is you do a rectangular piece of fabric, you know, pull it up, get all the pleating, and then you draw the bodice on it, right? So you don't smock the whole, because you wouldn't want to smock where you're going to cut it off, but you then do all the smocking and then you cut out the bodice. So there is a YouTube video on that as well, but that certainly could be, you know, you could do that with an adult garment. I've seen, for example, where they just put the smocking on an adult garment just up here, like just a little bit at the shoulders. So, and then it, you know, it would release and be pleating, or you could do as Sally said and kind of cheat a little bit and cut it right here and just have it be like an insert. So this down here doesn't have the 3-to-1 ratio, because that is the challenge with it for an adult, is that we typically do not want that volume of fabric around the rest of our body. So how do you, you know, bring it in a little bit?
You can make a beautiful waistband, and not just waistband, but hold like from under the bust to the waist, just have that whole area smocked. And then you'd have a seam at top and bottom so that the top would be a little gathered, the skirt would be gathered, but not 3-to-1.
Right.
Sense.
And the smocking is naturally elastic. So that's the other thing. You know, it could be, it is elastic like the shirring is.
It's yeah, it's just beautiful work.
Do I hear you planning your first project, Sally?
You have to watch your videos first and get a projector.
A little bit.
Check you both out, and I really appreciate getting to meet you.
Yeah. I'm glad to meet all you guys. Well, so talented. So many fun things.
We all have our thing to share, and it's just this has been such a nice summit. Christina, I'm just completely impressed with how you've handled everything. You've done a beautiful job.
And wonderful.
Thank you. I appreciate it. When I put these things together, I'm always jealous because I get to go out and be like, I want to learn from this person. I want to hear from this person. And, you know, it really gets my creativity going. And, you know, there's just so much knowledge out there that if we can share it a little bit and get more people sewing and creating their own amazing pieces of wearable art, that makes me happy. So I'm glad you guys have really enjoyed it. I have loved having all of you. And like I said, hopefully at a little bit different time next year. This particular timing has been a little bit crazy.
Fine.
But yeah.
For Lisa and Sheredith, this is not their first summit, is that correct?
Sheredith was here
It's my
last
first.
time.
Okay.
I was here with Christina last year, so this is my second year with her.
Okay.
Happy to be here again.
Yeah. Well, this is my first, and I was just a bundle of nerves when we started this thing, but it's fun. It's really fun. And this is the first time I've been part of a community of garment makers, or, you know, creative sewers, pattern makers, whatever, smocking, whatever. It's really nice. I live out in the country and see very few people, and I sure don't see anyone that does the kind of work that we all do. It's really nice to start connecting with others.
Yeah. So one thing I love about the internet and how easily we can all now connect over Zoom and be able to talk, because it's like we never probably would have met in the real world. But because of social media and Zoom, we can now connect and learn from each other and work with each other and all that fun stuff that really, I don't know, can help spread the joy of wearable art.
I agree. It used to be that I heard the phrase, oh, sewing is a dying art. Well, all of us are keeping it alive, right? That saying will go out the window someday.
That and it is a skilled trade. It's not women's work. It is a skilled trade.
Oh, it absolutely is. My goal, the reason I started this, and I've been doing this for 10 years, and so far it has been gratis. I didn't start this to create something to support me. I've been a dressmaker and a teacher, but my hope was to help people like impoverished women and men who need some way to make a living. And some people can't go out to work. Some women, their religion, or they don't have money for daycare. They can't go out to work. But if they could learn skills like we're teaching, they can help support themselves and their families. And I do think that this is a wonderful way for people to learn. I think there's something like 35 million sewers in this country alone. I looked that up recently, and 45 million knitters. That's a lot of people. And that's just this country. You know, YouTube goes around the world, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And there's so many different tips and tricks, especially like because people have learned from different people, and different tips get passed down in different processes. So
Absolutely. I learned a lot from Alexandra the other day because she was doing necklines, if you saw her video. And I didn't ever know to shift the dart. I've done it differently. So that was so helpful. That was a little jewel of a lesson for me personally. So I'm very grateful for this summit. Countless ways.
And fun.
yeah, no, it's true. Like you learn those little tidbits from everybody, because yeah. So that's one of my favorite things about doing summits like this, because you do learn those little tidbits. Oh, you do that differently, or oh, that's a really cool way to do that. I've never seen it done that way, or I've always done that. Yeah. So, but yeah. So do you guys have any other questions? It is about 6:55 or 55 after the hour, because I think we're all in different time zones actually.
No?
Awesome. Okay, well, I definitely, oh, go ahead, Lisa.
I'm just going to ask you, unless I'm giving something away, but this weekend, what is the situation there again?
Yeah. So there is going to be a 48-hour replay. So if you actually missed any of the videos that you were hoping to watch this past week, you'll have a extra 48 hours on Saturday and Sunday to go back and rewatch or watch for the first time those videos. You can make sure you get the free gifts from all of the different amazing speakers we have, as well as just re-soak up all those amazing videos. So
Thank you so much for that.
yeah.
I did watch almost everything, but there are some things I'd like to go back and look at
Yeah,
again.
that is wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was really
Yeah.
thoughtful.
Well, and it's been a crazy week, so I have missed a few, and I would like to go back and see them. So that would be wonderful.
Yeah. And it's just true for everybody. And there's so much. That's why I only have 3 speakers a day, and that's 6 videos that you're watching that are all between I think our shortest one was about 7 minutes, and our longest one was about 1 hour and 15 minutes. That might have been mine. But my tutorial went on a little bit
It was
this is
good.
supposed to be shorter. Why is this so long, Christina?
Okay.
Not following your own rule.
It was
Okay.
a serious lesson. I mean, not just a tutorial, it was a lesson, right?
Yeah. In 2 different programs. So that was it was a lot. It was maybe a little ambitious for what I was thinking it should be, but that's okay.
It sure is.
It's now done and there.
You've got
So
it.
but yeah, awesome. Well, yeah, thank you all so much. And definitely, I look forward to continuing to see all the amazing things you create on Instagram and everywhere. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you so much. It's very nice
It's
to
been
be here.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So and make sure everybody tunes in tomorrow for the last day of the summit, last new videos, and then we'll get the fun 48-hour replay over the weekend. So we will see you in some of these videos. Take care.
Thank you, honey. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.